My name is Rafael, you're watching Rock and Roll Garage, and today we're going to talk about four musicians who had the chance to see The Who live when they were still teenagers. They had the chance to go to The Who concert when they were still not rock stars as well. So please, before that, subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave your comment below, tell me what you think. And if you want to read more about this, all the details, you can go to the description and read the article we wrote about this, okay? So let's start. The Who was formed in England back in the early 60s, almost mid-60s. And obviously, you had Roger Daltrey, Pete Townshend, Keith Moon, and John Entwistle. You know, four amazing musicians. And they are certainly up there with the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and the Kinks, all the great British bands that appeared in the 60s. And thank God they're still active until nowadays, sadly without Keith Moon and John Entwistle. But the curious thing is that many legendary musicians who were really part of rock and roll music had the chance to see The Who playing live before those musicians themselves were part of famous bands. And the first one we're gonna talk about on this list is the Rush drummer and main lyricist Neil Peart. Well, Neil Peart had the chance to watch them playing in Canada. Obviously, he was born in Canada and lived there. It happened in the late 60s. And he recalled this in an interview with The Hour back in 2014 that you're going to see here. We're going to read together what he said about watching The Who live. He said it was actually when they were promoting the famous album Tommy, the rock opera, which was released in 1969. And Peart recalled that in the interview with the program called The Hour from CBC that we transcribed. He said, "When I was about 17 years old or so, I went to see The Who at the old Coliseum in Canada, playing Tommy. I was with a bunch of friends and bandmates in a van. On the way home, one of the guys said, 'Do you think you could ever had that kind of stamina?' And he laughed and I said, 'I don't know. I was laughing about that now after all these years.'" And there's another interesting statement he gave about Keith Moon, who influenced him a lot for sure. He talked with Modern Drummer magazine back in 1980, as we're gonna see here. He said I considered Moon a mentor for him. Keith Moon was really a mentor. And he said, "Moon gave me a new idea of freedom and that there was no need to be a fundamentalist. I really liked his approach to putting crash cymbals in the middle of a roll. I got into more disciplined style later on as I gained a little more understanding on the technical side." So, and that's very interesting, you know, Keith knew, saying that Keith influenced him a lot, and that wasn't the only time he had the chance to watch The Who playing live. And let's move to the second person on the list. The second person on the list is Mr. Joe Perry, the Aerosmith guitarist. And he was able not only to see The Who live back in the late 60s, he had the chance to see many other incredible bands. He had the chance to see Fleetwood Mac with Peter Green, John Mayall and the Blues Breakers when they had Mick Taylor on guitar, the Jeff Beck Group, and many other incredible bands, and of course The Who. And he said that he had the chance to see The Who live back in the 60s at the Boston Tea Party, and he recalled that in an interview we selected with Spin magazine back in 2022 that we're gonna see here together. His statement, he said, "It seems like yesterday I was watching The Who back in 1968. Just for a little perspective on this, I remember it was either 68 or 69. I was at the Boston Tea Party, which was a synagogue turned into a rock club. Out by the ticket window, Fleetwood Mac was playing. A couple of friends of mine had an extra ticket to see the Stones. they told me this could be the last tour, you know, with Keith and everything. I said, I think I'm gonna stay and watch Fleetwood Mac. So besides watching The Who, he had the chance to see another incredible band, which was the Fleetwood Mac with Peter Green, a lineup that didn't last that long, just a few years, and he had the chance to see them too. We move to the next one on the list, who is, I'm sorry, Mr. Paul Stanley, the Kiss guitarist, co-founder, and singer Paul Stanley. And Paul, you know, since he lived in New York City, and most of the British bands who went to tour in the United States would pass by New York City for sure. He had the chance to see many incredible bands, and we're gonna make a video about this. And one of them was obviously The Who. And he said that he recalled in an interview back in the 80s that is available on YouTube that we transcribed. And Paul said, I remember seeing Pete Townshend playing and doing these great windmills, jumping up in the air. Rock and roll is as physical as it is anything else. So the idea of jumping around, rolling around, whatever you want to do, set your guitar on fire, those were really avenues to be explored. So obviously The Who influenced Paul Stanley, and it's interesting because if you had the chance to see Kiss playing live, and I had the chance to see them playing live twice, always when they were playing Lick It Up, that hit from the 80s, from their Unmasked era, they used to, in the middle of the song, do a mashup with Won't Get Fooled Again, if I'm not mistaken, which has that breakdown and that keyboard or synthesizer part before Keith Moon comes up with that incredible drum solo. And that used to be a mashup right in the middle of Lick It Up, and that it would happen that, if I'm not mistaken, every singer would do that drum part, and then they would return to play the rest of Lick It Up. So The Who was a band that influenced not only Paul Stanley but Kiss. And we go to the final person on the list, who is a British musician, and certainly that was much more easy for him to watch The Who playing, since he was in England, and he was Brian May, the Queen co-founder and guitarist Brian May. He had the chance to see many incredible bands, and he recalled that clearly in an interview with BBC Radio 2 that were transcribed. That interview was done in 2019, and he recalled that he said, they came from Shepherd's Bush, very much a local phenomenon for us, and we used to go and see them, Roger, Taylor, and me. It was about the most dangerous concert you could ever go to, because you never knew if they would turn up to start with. And they did turn up it, and it was mayhem let loose. It was just so loud, dangerous, and anarchic, I guess. This was long before punk. I think The Who kind of wrote this recipe for punk, if you like. So they play local to us, and we went to see them a lot. We followed them, we loved them. They ripped out the rule book. And that's just an incredible statement. And obviously they remained friends. And in 1992, when the Freddie Mercury tribute concert happened, Roger Daltrey was part of that show. He sang with the band, and he performed the classic song "I Want It All," and he had John Deacon, Roger Taylor, Brian May, and Mr. Tony Iommi, who's a big friend, a great friend of Brian May. Tony Iommi, the Black Sabbath guitarist and co-founder, also played with that song with Roger Daltrey on vocals, and it's amazing. If you haven't checked it out, you should take a look at that performance. And that's it. Those are the four musicians who had the chance to see The Who playing live before themselves were famous as well. And I hope you liked the video. Please subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave your comment below, tell me if you have the the chance to see the Who back in those early decades, or a few years ago, tell me what you think. I never had the chance to see the Who, but I think it must be amazing. And please visit rockandrollgarage.com. Okay, see you later.